B2B event marketing, outsourcing events for maximum impact in 2025. Events are back, and now they're a revenue mandate. In 2025, B2B events aren't a brand play you justify with vague awareness metrics. They're a pipeline channel you're expected to operationalize. When 88% of marketers say events are a key revenue driver, and 52% attribute at least half of closed-won deals to events, the bar moves from show up to prove impact. The problem is that the work required to make events pay off is rarely accounted for in headcount planning. Most teams can manage booths, speaker slots, and calendars, but they can't reliably execute the high-volume prospecting, meeting setting, and rapid follow-up that turns event intent into sales-qualified conversations. That's why we see more B2B leaders pairing event execution with sales development support, either via an outsourced SDR agency, a sales development agency, or a broader outsourced sales team. The goal isn't to hand off events. It's to build a repeatable event motion where every program has a pre-event plan, an on-site capture process, and a post-event pipeline workflow. The 2025 event landscape: in-person dominance, higher trust, more pressure. Buyer preferences are making the format decision for you. Roughly 60% of events are now in-person, compared to 35% virtual and 5% hybrid. That shift matters because in-person conversations compress trust building into minutes, which is why organizers report in-person as their most impactful channel at 78%. Events are also winning the channel bake-off inside marketing orgs. Data shows 77% of marketers rate events as the most effective marketing channel, above email, social, and content. And attendees consistently describe in-person as the most trusted channel at 80%. If events are where buyers trust you most, sales need to plan to capitalize on that attention. A real plan. The catch is cost and scrutiny. In-person programs are expensive, leadership expects attribution, and there's little patience for "we scanned a lot of badges." If you don't connect events to meetings booked, sequels created, and opportunities opened, budgets get questioned, and the event calendar becomes the first thing cut when targets tighten. Why outsourcing is accelerating: more events, not more bandwidth. Teams aren't just doing a few big trade shows anymore. They're building year-round portfolios. Event volume is rising fast. Bizzabo reported customers increased the average number of events they hosted by 52% in the first half of 2024, with in-person events up 40.3% and small regional field events up 60%. More events create more surface area for pipeline, but they also multiply the operational burden. This is where sales outsourcing becomes practical, not theoretical. A capable cold calling agency or cold email agency can take on list building services, multi-channel invites, and meeting setting workflows at scale, while your AEs stay focused on discovery, demos, and progressing late-stage deals. Instead of hiring and ramping internally, you plug in an outbound sales agency that already has processes, tooling, and QA. At SalesHive, we treat each event like a mini-campaign with a defined outcome. How many target account meetings should be booked, how many sequels should be created, and what pipeline target should be influenced. That shift from registrations to revenue mechanics is the difference between event spend that feels discretionary and event spend that becomes predictable. What to keep in-house versus outsource across event types. The most effective model we see is clear division of labor. Keep strategy, positioning, and executive customer relationships in-house, and outsource the repeatable sales execution that determines whether the event turns into pipeline. For big conferences, that usually means outsourcing attendee lookalike list creation, cold outreach, calendar coordination, and post-event sequences, while your internal leaders own sponsorship decisions, messaging, and on-site executive schedules. For user conferences and owned summits, Outsourcing is often the fastest way to expand beyond your existing customer base. An outsourced SDR team can run account-based invitation programs, coordinate meet the AE blocks, and execute follow-up for both attendees and high-fit no-shows, without your internal team getting buried in manual segmentation and outreach logistics. For field events and private dinners, outsourcing can be even more valuable because seats are limited and every no-show hurts. A dedicated cold calling team can run high-touch confirmation workflows and LinkedIn outreach services to fill the room with the right personas, then continue outreach to target accounts who didn't attend, turning a local event into a focused, revenue-driven account play instead of a one-night networking spike. If you can't explain an event in the language of meetings, CQLs, and opportunities, you don't have an event strategy. You have an expense. The pre-event pipeline playbook. Build intent before anyone travels. Pre-event is where pipeline is either manufactured or missed. The most common failure is looping sales in too late, which kills your ability to pre-book target account conversations and coordinate coverage. The fix is forming a joint event squad, marketing, sales leadership, RevOps, and your SDR agency, 60 to 90 days out, with shared goals and clear handoffs. Outsourcing shines here because list building and outbound volume are the heavy lift. A strong B2B sales agency can build ICP-specific lists, validate contact data, and run multi-channel invites using cold calling services and cold email, all while preserving your brand voice through approved scripts and messaging guidelines. The output you want is simple and measurable. Confirmed meetings on AE calendars with target accounts, not just a growing registration number. Segmenting is the detail that makes this work. Attendees, registrants, and target accounts who ignored invites should each get different messaging, different CTAs, and different follow-up timing. When you tailor outreach around the event context, why that session matters, what the dinner is about, what you'll show at the booth, you create continuity that feels like a conversation, not a generic nurture blast. Post-event is where ROI is won or lost, so lock SLAs and measure like revenue. Most event programs leak value after the show, when leads get dumped into a generic drip and sales moves on to the next fire. That's why speed to lead and a structured sequence should be contractual, not aspirational, especially when 95% of event teams say demonstrating ROI is a top priority. If it isn't in the SOW, it won't happen consistently. A practical SLA-driven approach is to have your outsourced sales team begin outreach within 24 hours to qualified attendees and within 48 to 72 hours to high-fit no-shows, using phone, email, and LinkedIn touches that reference the exact context, the booth demo, the roundtable topic, or the question they asked. This avoids the common mistake of treating event leads like website form fills, which wastes the momentum that makes events valuable in the first place. To keep everyone aligned, track a small set of pipeline KPIs that your CRO and CFO will respect, and require vendor attribution so you can compare events with outsourced support versus events run fully in-house. Data, tooling, and handoffs. Integrate early to avoid CRM chaos. One of the fastest ways to sabotage event ROI is treating data integration as an afterthought. Badge scans, check-ins, meeting notes, and session attendance need to land in the CRM with clean fields, standardized campaign structure, and routing logic that matches your sales process. Otherwise, your outsourced SDRs can't prioritize correctly, and your internal team can't trust reporting. The fix is to involve RevOps and your sales development agency before the event, not after. When routing rules, enrichment sources, and lead scoring are agreed upon up front, your B2B cold calling services can start dialing the highest intent contacts immediately, and your AEs get follow-up tasks that are relevant, timely, and complete. Partner selection matters here, and choosing based on cost alone is a common mistake. A low-cost vendor that can't integrate with your tech stack or won't log activity transparently creates brand risk and data debt that wipes out savings. Prioritize partners who can work within your systems, follow your governance, and report performance in the same dashboard your leadership already uses. Turn events into an event-led growth engine. Optimize, iterate, and scale. The highest performing teams don't treat events as isolated spikes. They treat them as a 12-month event-led growth motion. That means stacking formats, webinars, roadshows, dinners, conferences, into a coherent journey and using an outsourced SDR agency to keep outreach and follow-up consistent even when your internal bandwidth fluctuates. A smart next step is to pilot outsourcing around one flagship event and measure lift versus a comparable event run entirely in-house. Because prospects are more likely to move quickly after engaging live, Splash reports 72% say prospects close faster after attending. Your test should evaluate not only more meetings, but also speed, opportunity rate, and downstream conversion quality. From there, scale thoughtfully. Shift budget from more shows to deeper activation at fewer, higher-fit events, and use your sales agency or outsourced B2B sales partner to go deeper with target accounts before and after each program. When the playbooks, SLAs, and attribution are locked, events stop being stressful calendar items and start behaving like a predictable pipeline system.